We'll be in contact, and we just set up our office. It's at the Ohio Republican Party. We're down in the basement in the bunker, and that's our big headquarters. And we've already got volunteer banks set up for volunteers to do list work and prepare for door-to-door. We're going to start door-to-door in February. Some of you might not want to do it in February. I'm going to do it in February, but whenever you guys feel comfortable helping us, we really, really appreciate it. We'll start phone banks probably at some point too, and it's going to be a lot of fun too. I mean, we've got a great team. We usually have 5 or 6 volunteers that come in almost every day, and then on big events we can get 40 or 50 folks pretty easy, sometimes 100 folks. So please come join us. We'll give you all kinds of updates. I'd be happy to answer any questions about what's going on in Washington, or the campaigns, or 2010, or any other races, or anything anybody wants to talk about. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about? My group. Yes, Adam.
When you get elected, what's going to be your number one priority and focus when you're in the House?
When I get elected, what's going to be my number one priority? As a freshman, first I'll say politics is a team sport, especially when you're in the legislature. My number one priority is going to be trying to focus on jobs and the economy and get things turned back around. Part of that means getting rid of bad legislation that these guys just passed. Part of it means setting up an environment where it's fair for everybody. We don't bail out anybody. Nobody gets a free card that doesn't matter what they do. But a fair system where everybody has a fair chance to compete and win in the economy. That's going to be my number one focus. I can't do it alone, but I'm going to need help with lots of people, and that'll be what I'll really focus on, especially in the first term, because of where our economy is and where Ohio's economy is, because I want to make sure all you guys get jobs. How many of you are seniors? How many juniors? I can help the juniors. I'm not sure I can help the seniors. So good luck to the seniors. Grad school's always an option. There's only 3 seniors in here, so there might be 3 jobs out there. I'm glad there's not 100 seniors in here. We can fix the economy. We can make things fair again. We just need to all work together and do it. And when I say all work together, I include the Democrats. They need to stop passing job-killing measures and join us to create a fair environment for everybody to compete and succeed. Somebody else, you were going to ask something, sir?
Let's say we got 42 seats. We again control Congress. You're between one of them. Because we're not going to put 42 seats. That's your
That's right.
And I hate to say this, but let's say that the Republican caucus sets out the first year and says a balanced budget is impossible. Would you consider going the John Kasich route at any point to propose an alternative budget to that your balance?
I think that we've got to take drastic measures to balance the budget, but we have to make structural changes too. The first thing I would do to help us balance the budget, the first set of things is we need to move to a 2-year budget. Ohio has a 2-year budget. It lets the legislature take its time to review the entire budget instead of ramming things through. Last year, Congress, before the end of October, only passed one of the 12 budgets they have. And then everything else gets a continuing resolution until they have time to get to it. And then they rush because they're like, oh, time's up, we got to get this done. And so they don't have a chance to really do a thoughtful approach to their budgeting. If you start with zero-based budgeting, where everybody doesn't get any guaranteed growth, then you also, I think, have a structural change that's important. And another structural change that I think would be key is given, I don't care who the president is, the president deserves a line item veto. The governor has a line item veto in Ohio, and it works. And it's a way to get rid of pork. It's a way to get rid of things that the president that's there now might veto some things I don't like. But I'm only going to give him a spending veto, but a spending line item veto makes a lot of sense.
Would you support not giving that veto to military appropriations?
I don't know the answer to that. Probably not. I think that the president deserves a line item veto, but there needs to be an override ability too. So that's the problem. In 1995, the Congress passed a line item veto for President Clinton, and it was overturned by the courts, and the courts said you can't have a line item veto without a legislative override. So they told us exactly how to pass a new line item veto law, and then nobody's passed on since. So it has to be passed. I believe it's important. But I think you've got to have structural change. But if it needed to be done, I probably would propose an alternative budget because we've got to focus on balancing the budget. And I don't know that I can say that we will balance it in the first year. Probably, that's a little ambitious, but we've got to move that direction and pass a blueprint to do it right away. And we've got to have a plan to do it. And you don't have to do everything right away, but you've got to have a plan. When you're in charge of anything, you've got to have a plan to get where you want to go. And where we want to go is running enough surpluses to pay off the national debt over time, and use that money that's a surplus, make it guaranteed to pay off the national debt. It was interesting this year when banks started paying back their park money, all the Democrats in Congress had a new thing they want to spend that money on instead of paying down the national debt because that was borrowed money. When you borrow money on your credit card and all of a sudden, you get money, let's say I borrow money on my credit card to buy you something and you pay me back the money I loaned you, I'm supposed to take that money and put it on the credit card. The government should too, and they didn't. So the problem is the government does not have a lot of people in it that have the fiscal integrity that they need, and they need to send the right people to Washington. There have been some discussions about a commission on balancing the budget, and I think that's an interesting proposal. It's kind of like the BRAC commission, if you're familiar with how that works. It would take a legislative override to override it, and I think that's a proposal worth looking at. Anybody else? Anything? Free open shot. Yes, sir.
That's the one. I know that the two of us in here are going through that. I was just wondering what your thoughts on Obamacare and using $400 kickback or whatever.
Well, I think the first thing is we've got to focus on controlling the biggest problem we have in healthcare is cost. And when you talk to people out there, the biggest problem that they talk about is cost. And we've got to have a bill that addresses the cost drivers that are out there. The number one cost driver that isn't paid attention to anywhere is personal behavior. Why shouldn't you pay more for health care if you smoke? You pay more for life insurance if you smoke. Why shouldn't, another cost driver is tort reform. I've sponsored tort reform in Ohio. We've got to have tort reform in Washington, I think. Another cost driver is in the government-run systems, Medicaid and Medicare, the ones that other folks want to expand. There's no incentive for the people in the system to use the lowest cost mechanism. So if you're on Medicaid, you have no copay, and it's inconvenient to go to the doctor and schedule an appointment and miss work. So where do you go? Emergency room, which is the most expensive mechanism. And that's what a lot of people on Medicaid do, and they don't have a medical home. We've got to have a program to give people a medical home so they have their own doctor. And then we've got to give them an incentive to go to their own doctor unless it's something that is truly an emergency. I was talking to a doctor from a emergency room out on the west side of Columbus 2 weeks ago, and he told me that he literally had a guy come into the emergency room and he wanted a drug test. And he said, well, what do you want the drug test for? He said, well, I think the drug dealer is cheating me. So he didn't want it because he wanted to get a job or anything like that. He thought a drug dealer was cheating him. Sure enough, his drug test came back clean, and then guess who came into the emergency room 3 hours later? His drug dealer shot him in the chest. So that's not what the system was intended for. And I'm not saying they should turn people away from the emergency room, but we need to create incentives for the right behavior. And that's my problem with the whole government takeover is they're not creating incentives for the right behavior. I think it's laudable to expand coverage, but we have a broken system, and we shouldn't expand the broken system. We need to fix the broken system and then expand it. And one of the other problems in the medical overhaul bill, they limit health savings accounts to $2,500 per individual a year. So instead of allowing that medical savings account, which I think is one of the things in healthcare that's working today, it's starting to bring costs down, they actually are restricting medical savings accounts, HSA, health savings accounts, and that's, I think, the wrong direction to go because they want to expand government insurance into play.